Welcome to our 14th story session. Tonight we interview Professor Jonathan Jansen. He's the rector of the University of the Free State.
My name is Craig Harding. I'm a director of FMI, one of the sponsors of Story Sessions. The combination of story sessions and telling stories about our futures and using Jonathan Jansen in particular is very, very powerful to us. What we really want to hear about is the view of the future of this country.
A lot of the talks are really interesting and they really hit home to a lot of topics that we deal with in the country.
Yeah, we just enjoy hearing different people and how their stories of their lives basically, and you just realize that we're all human and we're all in this together and everybody has their stories and their struggles, and yeah, it is a refreshing experience.
What also happens is it just gets interesting people here, it gets the debate going, it gets people talking.
Good vibe, good food, it's great atmosphere.
Before we get started, I wanted to introduce you to Brad Tureen. As you know, Story Sessions is sponsored by Apple Tree and by FMI as well. This is Brad, the CEO of FMI.
Professor Jansen's almost a little hero of mine. So I mean, I've followed his career for many years, read most of his articles, but you know, the idea behind having him here for Story Session started a couple of months ago when Durban was in the grip of the really horrible xenophobic violence, and I came across an article that he'd written called "Hold On, We're Not All That Bad." And really the gist of the article was around that, despite hearing about all the atrocities and the terrible things going on, we shouldn't lose focus from the fact that all around the country are millions of people doing amazing things. So I shared the article with everyone at FMI and sent Ashley, the lady who's organised tonight, a one-liner email saying he must be our next Story Session speaker. And after a couple of weeks of her Facebook stalking, we finally got a yes.
We are really, and one more time for effect, really excited to have Professor Jansen with us for tonight. He is not only an internationally renowned academic expert, he's not only one of the leading academic leaders within our country, but he is also a man who has authentically used love to transition a community. And I think that's what I'm most excited about. So without further ado, Professor Jonathan Jansen, why don't you come and join me up here on stage? Let's give him a big round of applause.
I got to tell you, I didn't want to be here today. And the reason for that is that today I had to leave my wife in Bloemfontein, and she was very upset because today we are married for 27 years. So there's two things I remember as a kid from Port Elizabeth. One is Maltabella. You know Maltabella?
Love Maltabella.
But you have to drink it with it's the only place in the country where you get the steri milk. I don't know if anybody from P is steri milk. Steri milk and Maltabella is better than sex. Let me tell you. It is it takes you places. It takes you places. But I think what made both sides of the family incredibly special to me as a kid, there was not a sign of bitterness.
I do believe that there was, you mentioned Latin, but
yeah.
There was a Latin teacher who played quite a significant role in actually calling some of the potential out of you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about him and maybe how he changed your perspective?
Now, Paul was an amazing teacher. He was sort of an oddball in the sense that he worked really hard as a teacher.
Sorry for the teachers out there.
I always doubted that this man was South African, but and he really put a lot in, and he taught, and he also taught me to run the 800 meters. So he took an interest in you, as a human being and so on. And one day while I was playing soccer, he said to me, come here. He said, you pretend you know nothing, but actually you're very smart. Now you must understand, here I am. At that stage, we couldn't afford shoes, the Bata Toughies, which I got later. And that was fine. It wasn't a burden. I went to school and so on. And here, for the first time, another adult tells me what I can do. Nobody had ever told me that before, including my parents, When I got to the University of the Free State, the pass rate was the second lowest in the country behind the University of Venda. And in February this year, the pass rate stood at 82%. Now,
Wow.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's exactly the same kids. Just the message is different. Raise your hand if you had at least one professor who said something like this. Welcome to Biochemistry 359. By the end of the first semester, half of you will be gone. Raise your hand if this happened to you. See what happens. Okay? How can you tell people they're not going to make it before they even try it? We make, in a nutshell, a big mistake in South Africa. We confuse training with education. Training gives you skills. Education makes you a human being.
Excellent. How would you define optimism?
I think optimism is, for me, looking at the reality around you. And where every other person says, I can't, okay, you say, I can. This is really, really important, okay? The amazing thing about young people, is their capacity to change. That is why I don't worry about these guys in politics. They will come and they will go. We must put our faith in our young people to change our future. That's why I'm optimistic. That's why I sleep soundly at night. You know, leadership is about doing things that nobody expects you to do.
Yeah.
So when we forgave those 4 boys, oh Lord, you know, all hell broke loose. But nobody's complaining now, you know. So it's being counterintuitive. It's not going with the masses. It's listening to your own voice and doing the right thing. And then it's easy, actually.
Phenomenal.
And I think the ability to do that, the ability to reach out, the ability to put others first, the ability to love deeply, especially people you don't like, is fundamental to changing not just a campus, but a country.
Amazing. I think that deserves a round of applause.